Does a dismissive avoidant actually like you, or are they just hanging out for a good time? This can be very confusing because dismissive avoidants take everything at a very slow pace. And if you have an anxious attachment style, or perhaps you are a fearful avoidant who is dating a dismissive avoidant, you might be leaning more anxious in this relationship and you would like things to be a lot more fiery and passionate and move at a quicker pace. And this person perhaps is not telling you that they like you, but they are hanging around, and just as you think maybe they are not interested, they tend to come back, and then you think, okay, but they do like me. Some of the things that they do show you that they like you, but you don't know if it's substantial enough for you to really think that this is a relationship forming versus just a friends with benefits, for example. Okay, so I've got 11 signs that they actually want to be with you and they see you as a more serious relationship versus just a good time. Number 11 is the most important, so stick around till the end. All right, number 1, so let's go over communication. They will initiate communication. They are usually not people who will wake up and send you a good morning text. Usually they will have a morning routine, or their mind will be very preoccupied with what they have to do for work or for their school or whatever it is that they're busy with, maybe their kids if they are a single parent. So they will want to get all of that stuff done, and then they might reach out to you at the end of the day. If they message you in the morning, then for sure they like you. The frequency of their communication is going to be increased. So just remember that attachment is on a spectrum. It's not just set in stone. Some of us are dismissive avoidants in certain situations that trigger us, and some of us are more anxious in just certain situations, right? But most of the time, maybe we fine. And then you get people who are really on the far end of the avoidance spectrum. So what we need to consider is that person's baseline of communication, not your baseline of communication. So if you are leaning more towards the anxious side of the attachment spectrum, you might want to, like the anxious preoccupied will want to message, say, every hour. Okay, they want to stay in contact with a person that they like throughout the whole day, maybe even phone once or twice a day. And when the dismissive avoidant doesn't show up in that way, then the anxious person is confused. Like, why is this person not showing up? However, they are still showing up. So what is going on here? Okay, the fearful avoidant might also touch base, say, in the morning and in the evening, also depending on how or where on the spectrum are they. Are they leaning more anxious or are they leaning more avoidant? Versus a dismissive avoidant might communicate with their friends or their family once per week. So if they reach out to you like every night or every second night or like 3 times a week, that is more than what they usually do with other people. That shows that you are their priority. Now, it's very difficult to understand what their baseline is. So perhaps just listen to what they say to you. Because if they say to you like, oh, my friends always tell me that I don't reach out to them, or you can just ask them like, how often do you usually communicate with your friends and your family? And if they say to you like, oh, you know, maybe I'll phone them once a week, or I'm really bad at it, I should communicate more, but I often miss communication. I not miscommunicate, but rather just don't communicate and don't reach out, and my friends reach out to me. And then you can see, oh, but they are reaching out to me, say, every second day or every night or 3 times a week. That shows that they are interested in you. That doesn't mean that if their baseline is like reaching out once a week and they reach out to you 3 times a week, but that's not enough for you, that you should just accept it. If that is how they are showing up, it just means that they are interested in you. And if they are interested in you, they will also be open to listening what it is that you need. And that is another sign that they are very invested in you, is because they are willing to listen to what it is that you need and come to a compromise. All right, number 2 is vulnerability. they show vulnerability in a very interesting way. It's different to what other people, other attachment styles see as vulnerability. Usually they are very closed off and they believe that they have to handle all of their challenges and difficulties by themselves, and that if they share their difficulties with other people will most probably either judge them, which will make them feel ashamed and trigger their inadequacy wound, or they will just make it worse somehow, or they will just make it like it doesn't even matter. So if they start to share a little annoyance, that maybe they were stuck in traffic and it was really annoying, or they had an issue with their boss or something at work, or they share their day with you and how they felt about certain things, for you, that might just be like, oh, this is normal, everybody does this, and you might overlook that this is their way of coming forward and sharing parts of themselves that they don't often share with other people. And this is a really good sign that they're starting to see you as a safe space that they can open up to. Now, it's very important, if your dismissive avoidance starts doing this, that you pay attention and say something like, thank you so much for sharing that with me, and validate their experience so that you can increase the feeling of safety in the relationship. If you want to create a safe relationship, I have created a very good video about how to do that. So I suggest that you look at that so that you can be a safe space for your partner, and also your partner can be a safe space for you, and your relationship can flourish. Number 3, affection. All right, so dismissive avoidants might have a very weird way of showing you affection, because most of the time they were not held, sometimes in infancy or throughout their childhood. So they might not be comfortable with PDA or overall just showing affection. So sometimes maybe they like ruffle your hair or fist bump you on your shoulder, and you're like, whoa, this is like really weird, what are you doing? But for them, this might be a way of trying to show you their affection. Of course, you can communicate with them and say like, hey, you know what, I'd prefer a hug rather than a fist bump or a tap on the shoulder when you hug me, you know. So they can be a little bit awkward, but they're trying to maybe show you their affection in a weird way. So, you know, you can be light about it without making them feel ashamed about it, and also redirect them and say like, you know, I see that you're doing this, you know, I prefer a hug. How do you feel about that? Okay, so, you know, you also want to ask people like, how do you feel about that? Because you want to give them autonomy. You don't ever want to make a dismissive avoidant feel like you are forcing them to show you love in a certain way. They value their autonomy and choice. So when you give them choices and you ask them how they feel, then they are more likely to feel safe with you, and they won't feel triggered and trapped in the relationship, because they still feel like there is a space for them to voice how they feel. Now, they will also show you through acts of service that they like you. They might make you a cup of coffee, or if your fridge is broken, they might phone somebody to repair it, or try to repair it themselves, or make your bed, or do things for you that will show you that they care. And gifts. All right, so dismissive avoidance can be a little bit withholding, I would say, or protective. Let's say the word protective, I think, is better, with their resources. So they have been brought up with a lot of neglect. This means that they had to be self-sufficient. So if you imagine that you can only rely on yourself, you will be a little bit more concerned with how am I sharing my resources, and you wouldn't want to share resources with people who are not important to you, because at the end of the day, there's going to be nobody there for you. Okay, that's the mentality that they have. It's like nobody's coming, you have to fend for yourself all the time. So of course there can be what other attachment styles see as more selfish, but it's more just about self-preservation. So when they start to share their resources with you, and buy you gifts or give you money, or I don't know, maybe give you something like furniture or something that you need for work, that can be a sign that they are really into you, because they are sharing those resources with you and they wouldn't normally do that. Another way they show affection is invitations to shows, to activities, or invitation into their space. They usually see their space as this sanctuary, and they wouldn't just want anybody to get into their space, because that is the space where they recharge. So when they invite you into their space, this is a sign that they like you. If they leave you alone in their space, that is a huge sign that they really like you. And this can also just be a little test to see how you are in their space. So if you go around and snoop around in their apartment or break their privacy, this is also going to be a test for you. So hopefully you can keep your anxiety and curiosity at bay and respect their privacy. Not everybody's going to test you, but there are these situations when some people do. Now, number 4, they might ask you for help or advice indirectly. So they might ask you about what do you think I should do in this situation, or what would you do? Dismissive avoidants are generally hyper independent. They trust only in themselves, and they believe, again, that nobody's coming. Therefore, when they ask you for help with absolutely anything, help with housework or your advice or your point of view, this is a sign that they really see you as a safe space and that you are important and they value your opinion. And dismissive avoidance would rather show you respect versus love. So they are more comfortable with showing respect. So if they show you respect, that means that they are really into you. Number 5, they accept your differences. So maybe differences in political views or religious views or nutrition views or how you raise your children. They will be more open to accept those differences versus if they don't like you, they will just most probably be like, oh, we don't get along. They will get more fault-findy, right? Because that was one of those things that they use to deactivate. Of course, it's a subconscious pattern. So when I say things like they use this, it's not like a tactic. It's like a tool that they reach for and they're like, oh, I'm going to all of a sudden find fault in this relationship to deactivate. Most of the time, they don't know that until they start doing the work. However, when they don't really like the person, it's a lot easier for them to just switch off and find fault, find the difference. Like, oh, this person has different religious beliefs, or they have different nutritional values or fitness, whatever, right? So they will find any small thing that will then switch them off from a relationship. Whereas if they accept your differences, they're willing to talk about it, then that shows that they are into you. Which brings me to the next point, which is conflict. They don't like conflict. If you've researched this topic, you might know that this is the biggest sign of dismissive avoidance. One of the biggest signs is that they really don't like conflict. And they usually see conflict something that ends relationships, and they have this idea that my ideal partner and I will never have conflict. And they might have this kind of like an open door in their mind, and this fantasy that when I find the right person, we will never fight. So when they stick around through conflict, even though they might still stonewall and shut down and go AWOL for a day or two, but they come back, or in the moment they are able to work through conflict, if they are a little bit more on the secure side, that means that they are really into you. Number 6. I think that was number 6. So we're going to go to number 7. They are willing to make it more public. What that can look like is that they are willing or allow you to post videos or photos on your social media. If they post videos and photos on their social media, that is a big sign that they really are really into you. They do not want to make anything public until they are absolutely sure that the relationship is stable, because they usually are afraid, like, okay, what if we break up and it doesn't work out? Now I'm going to be in this position of being embarrassed or having to explain everything to a lot of people, and I just don't want to do that. A lot of people will have questions, maybe judgments of me, and I don't want to deal with that. So they would rather not post on social media. So it's a very big step for them to allow you to post them on your social media, or post you on their social media. And also meeting the family. If they invite you to meet their friends and their family, this is a big sign that they are very serious about you. Now, the 3 reasons why they might not want you to meet their family is that, number 1 is that maybe they know their family is a little bit dysfunctional, so they are afraid that you will be put off of them and see that there is something wrong with them and their family, and you will reject them because of that. Number 2 is perhaps their family is very judgmental and critical, and they just really don't want to deal with that. They don't want to listen to their mom tell them about, like, oh, you know, but you should have a partner like this, or why did you dress like that, or whatever it is. Right? So they might have a very critical, judgmental parent or 2 or siblings, and that's why they don't want to introduce you. And there was a 3rd reason that I wanted to say. So it was you judging them, and also, I think I've just skipped that. That point just ran away, but it will come back to me, so I'll come back to it when it does, if it does. All right, and then number 8, future plans. So if they're planning things with you in the future, it shows that they are thinking that this relationship is going to be a little bit more long-term, and they are making plans with you not only for this weekend, but maybe next month. That shows that they are thinking about you and this relationship lasting. Number 9 is travel. Now, dismissive avoidants are generally home bodies, or they have their favorite places to go, and they like sameness. They don't really like a lot of novelty. It makes them feel very uncomfortable. So when they invite you to travel, or they agree for you guys to travel together, that means that they really like you, because it's going to be uncomfortable for them. They're not going to have their usual creature comforts that they can go into, or you guys are going to be together for a prolonged period of time, and they do not have that time alone to recharge. So if you are traveling together, if you have plans to travel together, that is a sign that they are really into you. Number 10, time. So number 10 and 11 is time. So the confusing thing about dismissive avoidance is, say for example, you're going through something. They will give you time because that's what they would want. So they would say things like, oh, I didn't really want to bother you at work because you had this very important meeting. So their sign, or they're showing you that they respect you, is to step back and not message you. Meanwhile, you might want them to message you and go like, hey, how you doing? I'm there with you in thought. Or you might want some kind of encouraging message, or just good luck for your meeting. And meanwhile, in their mind, they perceive everybody through how they think and feel. So they will go like, okay, I didn't message you because it was an important event, so I didn't want to stand in your way or distract you from it. And that's very confusing to you. Most of us treat other people from our point of view, which is sympathy, not empathy. And this is a big work point where we can develop empathy, to see people from their point of view and what they need. So an anxious, preoccupied individual might think like, oh, when I'm going through work stress, I would want somebody there for me. I would want them to message me all the time and check in on me. Meanwhile, the dismissive avoidant will think, I don't want people to message me. I want to be alone. I want to just focus on this and have a clear mind, not have to think about 10 million things. So that is the difference. And being in these type of relationships, we have to understand the person from their point of view and learn how to empathize with them and give them what they need, not what we need. And number 11 is time. This is the biggest way that you see that dismissive avoidants are into you. Time is their most precious resource. A lot of their time they want to invest in themselves, their hobbies, or time alone. So when they start to give you their time, that is the biggest indication that they are into you. And they might not tell you, like a secure person, they will just tell you like, hey, I like you, I'm into you, you know, I really like where this is going, I'm enjoying this connection. And they will contact you most probably every day, maybe twice a day. And they will be curious about how you feel about the connection, have these open conversations. Whereas the dismissive avoidant doesn't do that. And because you might have a different expectation of how much they should be contacting you or how they should be showing up, because you show up in those ways and they're not showing up that way, you might be confused. Like, is this person into me? Is this person not into me? And you might even bring this up with them and they will say like, but I'm here. What do you mean? And this is their indication, is their action, when they spend time with you, that is showing you through their behavior that they really care. So dismissive avoidants look at their behavior, not about what they're saying. Always just look at the person's behavior, okay? So if they're investing time in you, they're initiating contact, they are willing to have little bloopsies and work through conflict, even in a very clumsy way, and start to meet your needs, that is an indication that they are really, really into you and they see that there is a potential for this relationship to be something serious. And on the flip side, if this is just something that is passing fun, they will not initiate contact. You will be the one who is contacting them all the time. They will keep the relationship a secret. If they initiate contact with you, it will most probably be on like some weird time of the night when they just want to have fun. And then they will disappear again once they are satisfied. So those are the indicators. If you have different requirements for a relationship, it is always up to you to communicate that with your partner or your potential partner in a way that is open and gentle and inviting. So what that could sound like is, hey, I really enjoy this connection and I'm just curious to know how you're feeling. Or you could say like, you know what, I really like to connect with the person I'm dating on a daily basis. I really appreciate a message in the morning and a message in the evening, or a phone call in the evening so that we can catch up and grow our connection. How do you feel about that? And then you find a compromise that works for both of you. If they are not willing to compromise with you, then you have to decide if that is going to be enough for you. And this is something that a lot of anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidants don't do. They often look at the other person and make it all about them. Like, what is it that they want? What is it that they need? And most of the videos out there that are really popular on social media will be like, who does the dismissive avoidant want in a relationship? What do they want? And the anxious and fearful avoidants will tend to try to mold themselves, abandon their own needs and feelings, and just give the dismissive avoidant what they want, at least at the beginning of the relationship. And this is what causes a lot of problems further down the line, is because if we are dishonest about where we are first disconnected from how we feel, from our needs, and then we are dishonest about what we expect in a relationship, and we feel like, okay, we're getting into this relationship and we're just going to give this person whatever they need so that they are like kind of hooked on us, or that we can get them into this relationship. and then expect more and more and more, that is also not fair to anybody in the relationship. It is not fair to yourself, and it is not fair to the other person as well. So the more we can ground in ourselves and say, like, this is how I feel, these are my needs, and speak about it. It takes a lot of courage, because of course you've maybe heard or read or watched a lot of videos, content out there about how not to scare off the dismissive avoidant. But I can promise you that if this person is meant for you, you will not scare them off. Okay? So the person that really, really likes you might find some of the traits that you are bringing to the relationships challenging, and they then maybe want to communicate and work through that with you. But if any little thing that you do is scaring them away, then it's either they need to go and find help and work through their triggers, or that is not a relationship that is going to be fully meeting your needs. And this is the most important thing to understand, is not only what's going on for them, but can you keep in mind yourself, stop the cycle of self-abandonment and betrayal, and also work with them and their wounds. Can you be in a relationship where both of us are satisfied and are working together to create a relationship that we both want? It's about both of you creating and growing something. Is this person willing to grow? Growth means change. Both of you will need to change. This is the nature of all relationships. Relationships cause us to grow and change. If you can find a person who wants to grow and change with you, then you are on the road to have a happy, healthy relationship. And this is what I'm all about, to shift from surviving to thriving in our lives and have lives of love, safety, and freedom. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing and liking and sharing these videos. The more you engage with these videos, the more of them you will see. And also, you will help other people to find these videos. So thank you so much for that and spreading the love. Till the next one. Big love.